Good evening and thanks so much for joining us. It's 10 p.m. in Accra, 11 p.m. in London and midnight in Stockholm. This is News at 10, the bulletin also live on 3FM 92.7. First, let's take a look at some highlights of news making headlines on this network. And the campaign manager for the governing NPP in the 2016 elections and the chairman of the Democratic Union of Africa, Peter McMenu, who was leading the observer mission to Kenya, has been denied entry into the country. He, together with some members of the DUA, were expected to observe the Kenya polls next Tuesday. Mr. McMenu has arrived in Accra today. That's so far the story. Galamsey operators in some parts of the Ashanti region have abandoned their pits ahead of the arrival of the police and the military task force on Galamsey activities. 3 weeks ago, members of the Ghana Association of the Small-Scale Miners in the region vowed to return to site, but with government intensified anti-Galamsey activities, the miners seem to have shelved the decision to return to the pits despite government ban on the practice. And the non-availability of classroom space has compelled the headmaster of Nama DA Primary in the Secretary East District of the Ashanti region to use his 5-bedroom house as classrooms for pupils. The pupils have been occupying the headmaster's home for the past 4 years. That's in the Ashanti region of the Republic of Ghana. And to the Volta region, the paramount chief or the paramount queen of the Nkonya traditional area, Nana Otubia II, has indicted some chiefs in the unending communal conflict in the area. Addressing a peace-building forum at Nkonya Ahinkro, Nana Otubia II insisted the concerned chiefs and others have special benefits in the atrocities, hence their resolve to ensure it never ends. And on the international front, President Paul Kagame of Rwanda has won a 3rd term in office with a landslide victory. The country's electoral commission has announced a final tally of votes gave him 98.63% of the votes. If you're watching us from Kalio in the Upper West region, if you're watching us from Kofodia in the Eastern region, if you're with us from Winneba in the Central region, this is your show, News at 10. Let's start with a big one. First on the list, the Accra Metro Assembly has reiterated it will not relent on its efforts to resurrect the operations of sanitation courts to try sanitation offences. The Accra Metro Chief Executive Mohammed Ejei-Sowa maintained many of the sanitation challenges are as a result of indiscriminate human activities.
Tackling waste-related issues has been a challenge for city authorities over the years, with Accra alone generating about 3,000 metric tons of waste in a day. Although a day has been set aside to embark on sanitation exercise every month, the city still records instances of unmanaged waste. The chief executive of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, Mohammed Ejei-Sowa, blames this on bad human habits. He reaffirmed the Assembly's efforts to effect punitive actions on offenders with the presence of sanitation courts. As a result, the AMA has procured more trucks and equipment to manage waste in the metropolis as part of exercises to mark this month's National Sanitation Day. The Metropolitan Chief Executive, with his entourage, toured the Central Business District, Kwame Nkrumah Circle, Awuso-Okai, Bukom and the Tema Station to inspect the sanitation conditions in the suburbs. He confronted community and organizational leaders who have allowed filth to engulf the area. He also charged traders of markets and residents to continue in their efforts of ensuring cleanliness even as they prepare to celebrate the Homo Festival to improve the city's sanitation management. The chief executive visited the Central Police Station, and the Greater Accra Regional Director of the Rapid Deployment Force, Superintendent Freeman Kumashi, assured the team that the police will increase their fight against unauthorized activities which often generate waste.
And the Accra Metro Chief Executive just joined me on the phone lines. Mr. Jason, we're grateful for your time tonight.
Good evening, and thank you for having me on your show.
So let's start from here. These courts are not new. How well will they work this time?
Well, thank you once again, and good evening to your wonderful viewers. We had challenge over the period in managing the courts. We even have one at Ashuduketeke sub-metro, which is close to the where we used to have a slaughterhouse. The judicial service have refused to use that place because those who slaughter goat there, and the whole environment oftentimes is engulfed with smoke. So we had challenge in managing the courts, but in pursuance of the president's wish that we have to make sure that Accra becomes clean, we need to revive these courts and manage the courts very well. In fact, some of the courts are also in a very deplorable state. For instance, if you go to Ajabin Court, if you go to the court also at Abekam, it's not a place that, when you post judges there, they will be excited to stay. So we are renovating all the courts in the city, especially the sanitation courts, and then to complete one also at Circle, so that in total we will have 5 sanitation courts in Accra, so that offenders of the law, once picked upon, will be able to dispatch them swiftly to the sanitation court for charges, and then for the judge to take action.
I see. Since you have identified the problem as one of human behavior, you think and sure the court will be able to deal with it and help improve sanitation? Well,
it's a multi-faceted approach. We're tackling the issue about sanitation on all fronts. One, we engaging in public education, and this platform also offers us to continue to talk about sanitation and how we are polluting the environment and its adverse consequences on our health. The second approach is about enforcing the law and enforcement of the bylaws. We've also commissioned and deployed all our Sama group on Wednesday, all of them, and then we've uniformed them to go into the communities and ensure that, those who pollute the environment are given summons and then taken to the court. Now, the next leg is that you should also support the judicial service so that they can also, give swift action. So, and that's why we think that we have to invest also in the sanitation courts, so that whenever we want to prosecute offenders, it will be much easier for us.
I see. You have appointed former President Mr. Rawlings to lead this effort. Now, if you've been listening to him today, he said that, the position he's been given is a ceremonial one, and that if he had the powers, he will make sure 5 people are in jail for sanitation offenses. Perhaps, is he then asking for more than making him a ceremonial head in the fight against sanitation?
First of all, the law is in the bosom of the judge. I don't have the right to tell the judge, what they should do to jail people or not. If the law required certain changes presently, I think that the lawyers will look at it, and then the judicial service also have to take a look at it once again. Number two, with regards to His Excellency, the former president, I appreciate his concern. In fact, when I met him, I realized that he's very passionate about the environment, and it wasn't any appointment per se, because of his passion for the environment and talking about it. I respectfully and humbly asked him also to join the crusade in making sure that Accra becomes clean. On the Independence Avenue corridor, we just went on an unannounced visit to the properties along that stretch. And the properties that we identified that they've maintained the whole environment very clean and green, we award them in a plaque recognizing their effort. And His Excellency, the former president's property is one of them. The World Bank is one of them. MTN, Latter-day Saints Church, the Zenith Bank. If you walk on that Independence Avenue corridor, indeed, we went to the Barclays Social House. We realized that the wall, which was near collapsing, the place is not kept clean. We issued summons to them instantly, and we asked them to face us in court. So we're calling on Ghanaians, and more especially the city dwellers, to be part of this fight against filth in Accra.
I see. Now, let me quickly bring in this before you go. Gat Central, Gat South, Latma, Lekma. When you talk about Accra, this is what we know. It looks like the AMA seem to be doing this alone. Are these assemblies involved in the president plan to make Accra the cleanest city, and how are they involved in what you're doing?
I'm happy you raised this. Just on Wednesday, the regional minister met all the MMDCs in Accra and asked all of them to join the fact that the AMA cannot wage this war and leave out the adjoining districts, because we have a population of about 1.6 million in 2010, according to the 2010 population and housing census. Using 3.1 growth rate, we are hovering around 2 million population in Accra. But there's another floating population of about 2 million that comes from all these districts and parts of Ghana into Accra and go back. And if we want to really wage the war and win, then all hands must be on deck. So the regional minister has directed that all the districts also in Accra should join the fight, so that the people that are coming from the other districts, their attitude will change. When they are coming to Accra, they know that Accra is waging war, and then back home where they are, there's also another war that is being waged against filth over there.
I'm grateful for your time tonight.
Thank you very much.
Mohammed Ajay Sowa is the Chief Executive of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly there, talking to me. Let's move on. Now, many have called for the immediate repeal of a new levy imposed on all motorists in the country for a road towing service. Exactly how does that impact on the discourse now in the public domain? We'll tell you more about that when we're back from the break. Stay with us. This is News at 10. Talk about road safety. Many have called for the immediate repeal of a new levy imposed on all motorists in the country for a road towing service. Some have described the service as a bad idea meant to rip off motorists, though the Transport Ministry has said it has not yet taken any decision on the implementation of the controversial towing levy. Some civil society organizations and groups have started the collection of signatures to petition the president to halt the implementation of the mandatory towing levy. The groups include the Commuter Drivers Union, General Petroleum and Transport Workers Union, Oil Tanker Drivers Association, COPEC, and Industrial and Commercial Workers Union. And the General Secretary of the ICU, the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, Solomon Kote, has just joined me on the phone lines. Grateful for your time tonight. So the road safety says that this is one way to reduce accidents. You are against it. Why?
It is not an issue of we being against prevention of accidents. But here we are, during the end of 2016, we saw multiples of levies that came on the DVLA roadworthy, that came on insurance, all geared towards safety on our road. We complained that those levies were just too much. Unfortunately for the present government, nothing has been done about those outrageous increases we complain about, and they used it very well during the elections. Now, the issue about this particular bill is the fact that it was passed way back 2016. Reasons that kept it on the shelf, are we saying are they obsolete now? We think it is another means for government to generate income to govern, which is correct. Every government is supposed to generate income. But this particular one, we see the duplication and triplication of it in the already existing roadworthy certificates that we pay and then insurances that we pay for the motorists. And we think this is purely unfair to the citizens of Ghana.
So your concern is simply about what happens to the packets of car owners?
Exactly. And even if you go recall, and let's remind ourselves, the movement of the insurance increases and then the roadworthy certificate increases just the close of last year. The kind of noise we all made about it, and yet it had to go through. We thought it was going to be part of the nuisance taxes that this government was going to look at, but it's been left like that. Now we are come to bring another one. The burden will be too much for us. That is all we are crying for.
I see. But if we're paying and our roads will be safe, why shouldn't we pay?
We are thinking that individual transport owners should be rather made more responsible. We think you have your car is broken down. You should find means to get it out of the place. If the law rather says that your car breaks down in 3 hours, you are not able to get it down, and the towing company will come and tow it, and then you go and pay whatever penalty, and then the car will be released. So I think that would be better than to say that we have never seen a motorcycle broken down and left on the roadside before, but they are also going to pay this particular in our levy. The whole thing is unfair to some of us, the way we reason. We think they must go and rethink through it again. If they are saying that some aspects of road services should be granted, already the one we are paying, we haven't seen the efficiency, and then we want to bring another one. We think that this is not helpful.
How well will your petition work, particularly when the whole document is being sent to Parliament? Parliament has taken a look at it and it's been forwarded back to the Transport Ministry. You think your petition will yield some results?
I believe it is a listening government. What made it to uphold in the first time that it didn't implement? We know now that we are soliciting all direct consumers of this particular product, and they're signing on to say, please, Mr. President, please, government, reconsider this decision again, because it's going to worsen the tax burden that we are already, not able to grapple with. So we think the listening government will listen to Ghanaians once again.
Mr. Solomon Kote, I'm grateful for your time tonight. He's the Secretary General of the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, talking to me there. Let's move on to some other stories. The campaign manager for the governing NPP in the 2016 elections and the chairman of the Democratic Union of Africa, Peter McMahon, who was leading the observer mission team to Kenya, has been denied entry into the country. He, together with some members of the DUA, were expected to observe the Kenya polls next Tuesday.
Peter McMahon was leading a team of election observers from the Democratic Union of Africa into Kenya in the run-up to the country's elections scheduled for August 8. Reports from Kenya indicate his denial is linked to his role as honorary chairman of the Democratic Union of Africa, an umbrella body of center-right parties in Africa, which includes some opposition parties in Kenya. Security has been beefed up in Kenya following the mysterious death of IEBC ICT Director Chris Msando last week. Over the past years, the electoral process in Kenya has been marred by violence. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, registered 19,611,423 voters for the August 8 elections. There are 40,883 polling stations. IEBC has hired 362,858 election officials and trained them. A total of 150 international observers have been given accreditation to observe the elections.
Meanwhile, a leading member of Kenya's National Super Alliance has confirmed the deportation of 2 Ghanaians from the country. The 2 Ghanaians, an American and a Canadian, were all deported by authorities over alleged fears of possible rigging in the general elections slated for August 8.
I think this should be seen in the context that yesterday was like an operation that they were carrying out yesterday, not simply at this national center, but to look for everybody and anybody who would want to work with us. And last night there were 2 Ghanaians who were coming to help and share their experiences, not as employees, but to share experiences with us on how the elections were conducted in Ghana. And as you know, the system of elections, to the extent that it depends on electronics, is similar to that of Ghana. And they were removed from their plane. They did not formally disembark from the plane. They were taken away by the police and pushed into another plane by this morning back to Ghana. We had also friends from Canada and the United States. Both of them, again, were sharing their experiences with us. They have experiences in matters of election. And the police invaded their apartment where they were living in Westlands. And one particular individual, the American, who was very adamant about his rights under the Constitution, his civic rights, was molested, thrown into the boot, and taken away with his colleague. He's called John Phillips Aristotle.
Let's come back home. Galamsey operators in some parts of the Ashanti region have abandoned their pits ahead of the arrival of the police and the military task force on Galamsey activities.
The joint police and military task force was deployed to the eastern, western and Ashanti regions earlier this week. The action by the state is to intensify the anti-Galamsey fight and reverse the destruction of the environment. Some of the small-scale miners are not happy with the deployment, saying the government has not been fair to them. Farmers in Amansia West and Central District in Ashanti region are the worst hit by the Galamsey activities. The situation has affected food production at Watreso, Kenyago, Jacobo, Manso Kwanta, Manso Mem, Manso Krofrom, Abodom and other communities in the area. But there was mixed reaction among the people on the clampdown of the Galamsey activities. While business people are not happy about the move by the government, farmers who are the hardest hit by the devastation caused by Galamsey are excited at the move.
Our water bodies have improved after the ban on Galamsey was intensified. Government should find alternative jobs for the youth.
The clampdown has affected business activities in the Galamsey communities in the Ashanti region. The once busy communities are now ghost towns as many people have left the communities. Deputy Managing Director of Amansia West Rural Bank, Frederick Kwachi said the mass movement of people from the area has not affected their business.
And of course, for 10 years, the man Usain Bolt had never lost a race. And so it was expected that indeed he was going to bow out of athletics in such great style. The man did not only lose, but came third behind Jocelyn Catlin and Christian Coleman. And of course, he has been talking about it, suggesting that he had a poor start from the tracks. The man, Usain Bolt, has bowed out in that style. That's how we're wrapping up the show for tonight, and we're grateful that you stayed there to be part of the show. And of course, to my team in here, Armando, Christian Soa, and Virtual Metro, all the great guys, Ben Mensah, Joseph Moncho, and of course, my studio director, Brenda Dugan. The show was put together by Selom Amina. My name is Bright Manafo. Have a great night. Stay right here on TV3.